Alright, welcome everyone to part 3 of the DAW Internal Summing Test. So this is the results, the revealing answer for the blind test from part 2. So first I'm going to describe some of these statistics here, and then I'm going to show you the actual results. So, out of all of the responses, I was able to collect 21 separate responses. 15 of those were actual guesses between the different DAWs between A, B, C, and D, and I've plotted them all out here. And I'll just briefly touch on this stuff here. So, out of the 21 responses, there was 11 people who responded and had the implied statement that there was a noticeable difference. So they didn't say whether or not they heard a difference or anything. They had a guess, and I'm taking that as an implied statement that they heard a noticeable difference. So there's 11 people who had that. There's one person who stated that they are certain that there are differences, and then they made a guess or not, I can't remember. 2 people had said that they were very explicit about being absolutely certain that there are differences. One person had just a random guess. That's exactly what they said. They said this is just a random guess, and they sort of just did a guess. 6 people said they heard no noticeable difference and therefore didn't actually make a guess. And 2 people said even though they had made some sort of a guess or whatnot, they said that, or they acknowledged that their mind could be playing tricks on them, and there might be less of a difference than they actually think. So that is kind of important here. Now, for the actual guesses, you can kind of see a pattern where most people guessed that Cubase was A, most people guessed that Pro Tools was B, Logic C, and Ableton 6. I don't think that makes a really meaningful statistical, you know what I mean? Like 7 out of, what is this, 15? That's about 50%. I guess you can say that's statistically significant. I didn't actually do any number crunching or anything. So yeah, that's the 15 people here. You can kind of just see for yourself. There's also people who had ordered their preference. So some of them mentioned that, ooh, I like this one better than that one. So I plotted that one out as well. There wasn't as many actual responses for this as there were the amount of guesses. And then also people had named a bunch of different characteristics. So for DAWA, they would say either there was more bass, or there was limited highs, or quite a bit of brightness, all that stuff. So I sort of just plotted out all these different things here, all these characteristics that people described, and then just counted them. So some people said that A was bright, and 3 people said that A was brighter than all the other ones. And then I sort of grabbed some of the quotes that people said. Like, here's one quote. One person said, "I like A, that is all." I don't know if that's just a troll or not, but basically saying that he only likes A and the rest he doesn't. And then, yeah, and here's a good sample response here, or example response. So one person wrote A, he guessed that Logic was A, and he said it sounds tight and warm on kick and drums. B, Pro Tools mixing on voices sounds beautiful, and all other aspects too, and he said that that was his favorite. And I think I marked that down right here. I counted it. And then C, Ableton Live, the most interesting, quite cold and aggressive and sibilant. He said the low is less defined, but there's all this stuff here. There's quite a bit of stuff going on. Very balanced for Cubase. Nice low delay on voices. Seemed cold versus A and B. So as you can see, there's quite a nice wide range of different characteristics that people were describing. They also stated that they had preferences between the different DAWs. and most people were sort of guessing towards the same sort of DAW. So yeah. Now the super interesting thing, and now here is the results, is that in the blind test, the only DAW that was playing was Cubase. It was Cubase for all 4 of those DAWs, for A, B, C, and D. So I want everybody to kind of just soak this in and really sort of understand what this means. Is that in part 1, I actually had it was a non-blind test. I was showing all of the DAWs for them back to back, and playing them so that you can actually hear the difference. And there was very, very slight differences between them. And in the blind test, I tricked everybody because I was priming them to believe that these were separate DAWs when they were not. They were all Cubase, all the same ones playing back to back 4 times for the verse and then 4 times for the chorus. So yeah, think about what that means. People were actually saying that they were explicitly and being absolutely certain that they heard differences between the DAWs when it was the exact same sample and the exact same DAW. And look at the wide range of different guesses, the wide range of different preferences. People were actually labeling certain like A and B and C and D as a order of preference when they were the exact same files, the exact same DAW. They're also describing characteristics of all of these separate DAWs as having either more lows, less lows, warmer, more detailed, less detailed. And I chose this one here specifically because of how detailed this person's answer was. He was saying that A sounds tight and warm on kicks and drums. On C, the most interesting, quite cold and aggressive on sibilants. Low is less defined, but there's a kind of groove that others don't have. Difficult to explain. And I'm not pulling all of these things to wag my finger at people. I want people to understand that this is a psychological phenomenon where we are very easily tricking ourselves into hearing a difference between the DAWs, when in fact it's the exact same DAW and the exact same files. So now I'm going to sort of turn to something that I think, what is his name? Let me quickly go to the DAW test. I think his name is Wiener. I can't remember. Anyways, so there's certain things, there's certain phenomena where when you are listening to music and whatnot, and you're in a room, if you move your head even just kind of inches forward, inches backwards, swivel just a little bit, any kind of movement in that sense, there's different comb filtering going on within the room, and you'll actually be hearing a difference in like frequencies and whatnot, because you're moving and there's comb filtering by hitting all these reflections and frequency cancellation and out of phase and all this kind of stuff. So you will actually be perceiving differences while you're moving around. That's kind of a thing. But there's also the part where you will be focusing on different elements of the song. So I know, even for me, I made this test and it was made to trick people. And every time I hear the first DAW, the DAW A, and then it switches to B, I notice that there's shakers that go away, and I pay more attention to like the low end and stuff, and then it sounds like maybe it has less highs, or it's maybe a little bit more clear or something. Like, it to me, my brain is kind of it's already conjuring up these things like a response and a perception of how this second one sounds differently, but it's totally not. Yeah, let's go into here. Here we go, Ethan Weiner. So he has really good videos on almost exactly what I've been showing you guys here. There's one story I remember of him and a group of panelists that were speaking. One test that they did was they had two switches on some sort of like playback system, and one of them was labeled something. It was labeled, I think, high-end tube preamp or something like that. And then, it was one switch. So on one side of the switch, it was some sort of high-end tubey thing, and on the other side of the switch, it was like a solid state or something like that. So people would go up and they'd click between the two, and they would say their preference and describe the difference in sound and whatnot. And then one of the dudes that went up to it, he knew like how to test for this kind of psychological phenomena. So what he did is he went up to the speaker, put his hand up like this, switched between the things like this, and then he went up to the guy who was performing the test, and he says, "Dumbass," like, because he knows what's going on. It's a trick that our minds kind of just play, and he knew that the guy was actually testing this. So anyways, I don't want to ramble on too much, but yeah, if you like this kind of test, what I've shown, and want to kind of learn more about psychological phenomena and this sorts of thing and how to like trick yourself less, search up Ethan Weiner. He has quite a few videos. I think he has maybe even like a published paper on this kind of subject and whatnot. I know there's like that group of panelists. That video that I watched was like a 1 hour video. That's actually really good. Alright, so now what I want to do is just move on to some of the methods part of the blind test. So I just want to describe what went on behind the scenes. So for part 1, this is the project that I used to make the video with. And what I did was I screen captured myself in Cubase with the 4 different DAWs, and then you can see in this little screen here that, let me make it bigger, is that I had a solo track, or a track soloed. So here is Cubase soloed, and then as I played and it got to the end of the loop section right here, then I had the MIDI, my MIDI controller and my mouse, and I quickly switched between the different DAWs. So essentially you have a unending switch between the 4 different DAWs. So that's for the verse and for the chorus. And that's the video that you saw in video part 1. And in part 2, I have what is it? I have the verse and the chorus, not a continuous take, but I have it split up into 4 sections. So what I did was I took the first part of that recorded part, and then I just duplicated that 4 times for the verse and then 4 times for the chorus. So essentially what you heard was exactly the same take 4 different times for the verse and 4 different times of the same take for the chorus. So I hope none of you think that I'm just trying to troll people and that I'm doing something wrong behind the scenes. I wanted to show you like all the project and everything so that you believe me, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, so now what I want to do is wrap up with what I have done and what I plan on doing. So right now, this video series, what I had planned initially was to have the part 1, the part 2 blind test, as you saw. part 3, the results, and have an actual blind test where I supply you with the raw wave files of the exports. It'll be like either the full song or just small sections of the song. In the same way, I might just do the verse and the chorus separately or whatnot. But what I'll do is I'll have those 4 DAWs in all of them they're all gonna be wave 24-bit 44.1 kilohertz files, and I'll supply you guys with a download link so you can download the raw wave files to compare between all of them. Now, they're just like in the test before, they're all going to be named DAW A, B, C, and D, so you won't know what is what, and only I will know. And then what I'll do is I'll post a video that has all the description. It has the link, the download link, the instructions for what you should do, and then you can write comments in that YouTube video. And then I'll have another part that will give both the results, and then I will reveal which DAW is which. So I think that will be part 5. Part 4, which is going to be coming up next, will be an actual real blind test with the files that you can download. 5 will be the results of the statistical results, as well as revealing which DAW is which. And then I think what we're going to do is go into another video where I do null testing, and I will actually compare all 4 of those DAWs in some kind of meaningful way. We'll do like some method analysis, some null testing, anything that we can kind of think of after all this testing has been done. And then I think potentially there's more null testing that can be done. So one thing that's kind of interesting to me is that people have said that the warp function in Ableton Live somehow makes a difference in its export. And my tests show that there is no difference whatsoever between having warp on and warp off as far as my tests goes. But I will show you what I did, and then we'll do some null testing. And I have to do a refresher because I think it's been a year since I've actually done all this testing and stuff, so I have to refresh my mind on what the heck I did. But also what is relevant to that is in most DAWs, especially like Cubase and Pro Tools and stuff, I know you can configure the pan law. So in here you can see the project pan law is set to, where is it? Right here, equal power. So there's these different pan laws, and I'm pretty sure, don't like quote me on this or anything, but I'm pretty sure what this means here is that if you actually have something in your project that is panned, this is going to determine the volume in which it's going to be in the left and right speaker. So when it's dead center, it's going to be equal power. That's the point, and that's like the math and the theory behind being dead center is equal power in both speakers. The more you pan it to one of them, the more it's going to be loud into that speaker. But you pick an actual pan law to say how much of a difference it's going to be. Now, if you're just taking a bunch of stereo files and you're putting them in a DAW and you're exporting them, I don't think the pan law matters whatsoever. So I'm also gonna do some null testing on that stuff too, because that's a big issue with doing a test like what I'm trying to do here. Is a lot of people say that, oh, this pan law matters, oh, this warp function matters, all these other things seem to matter, but if you actually do some testing, you can actually determine what matters and what doesn't. And I believe it was pan laws doesn't matter unless you're actually doing some sort of panning within the DAW. So that's a teaser for what is to come. I think that will make this whole big series like 8 parts long or something. And that only kind of just depends on how people receive these videos, how much testing that I actually feel like doing, and then how much like feedback I get from people. Maybe I have to tweak some things, I don't know exactly, but that's a kind of preview of what's to come. So look forward to an actual real blind test. No trolling, no how do you call it, no trickery or anything. I promise you this next time. The only reason why I wanted to trick you this last blind test was because I wanted to try and dispel these kind of myths and stuff that people sort of are very passionate about. So anyways, hopefully you guys like that and you don't think I'm an asshole. And leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment, let me know what you think about this kinds of stuff. This stuff interests me a lot. I'll actually also leave a link in the video about that video on Ethan Weiner that I was talking about, and then maybe some articles or some websites that kind of have to do with this. And actually, one more point is, in university where I'm attending right now, I'm going to be doing a actual psychological experiment, like an actual study, as a part of an independent study, like a course, a 400 level course. And there's going to be two parts to that one. One of them is going to be comparing whether people can hear the difference between MP3 and vinyl. That's one big section, so it's quite similar to what I'm doing here. And the other section is I'm actually going to be doing this kind of test here. So the benefit of doing an independent study of what I'm trying to show here is that I'm not just going to be getting YouTube views from people who are actually already interested in all this, and they're going to be the ones who see these videos, and they're going to be the ones who are commenting on these videos and giving me these statistics. What's going to happen is I'm going to be in a university that is almost completely detached from audio engineering and music for the most part, or at least music production, because most of these students are either psychology students or science students, all these kinds of weird things, right? So having the sample of being in a university and doing the study in the university, I'm going to have a much more sophisticated sample, and then I'm going to be able to do a lot better statistics with that sample, and it's going to be much more representative of the population and of humans' auditory perception as a whole. So hopefully, yeah, you guys like that. That is what is to come in the next couple of years, and I'll be posting a lot of results on this YouTube channel and probably doing some sort of formal presentation of some kind for the results of the actual independent study. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hit that subscribe button if you like this stuff, because I will be making more of this stuff. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.